Today's webinar is the Competent Company Secretary, Best Practices of Corporate Secretary under Companies Act 2016. Music in. Nah, can hear not? Da, 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 da. When I was studying ICSA, I asked my teacher, what will I be? Will I be in-house? Will I be outsourced? Hear what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever you learn is yours. The futures of company secretaries. Que sera, sera. What you need is to pass exams. When I came out and start to work, I asked my chairman what lies ahead. Will we have bonus year after year? Here's what my chairman said. Que sera, sera. You need to be professionals. The futures of company secretaries. Que sera, sera. Chief of Corporate Governance. Now I have employees of my own. They ask their manager, what will I be? Will I be administrator? Will I be board advisor? I tell them tenderly. Que sera, sera. You need to be competent. The future of company secretaries. Que sera, sera. What you need is training from companies method. Crazy lah. Okay.
And let's start. Okay, basically today we are doing the part on competent company secretary and then best practices of corporate secretary. I'm here to share with you what it takes to be a competent company secretary. And first and foremost, let me stress that we are professionals and we need to act very professionally, meaning that we need to know what we are required to do, okay, as far as the law is concerned. On top of that, the way that we handle the job, the way we handle clients, the way we talk to clients, the way we talk to anybody for that matter, okay, any other professionals, any other third parties, okay, we need to project the image. Not only projecting the image, we have to walk the talk, all right, that we are a professional so that we can get the respect and the high regard for the profession. So each and every one of us will have to do our part as a company secretary, okay? So we all need to work together to bring the profession up, okay, to be respected, to be regarded, to get the recognition, okay. So we are moving ahead. Everybody is moving ahead, okay, as far as the country is concerned, the corporate world is concerned, and so on, okay. So we need to be able to respond to changes fast enough, be able to understand the law fast enough, will be able to be in a position to explain, to advise, to guide our clients so that they know what needs to be done in terms of corporate governance, in terms of compliance, in terms of process, procedure. Okay, all right. So let's start. Without further ado, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, what is the makeup of a competent company secretary and secretarial practice under Companies Act 2016? So this is the main question that we are asking, each and every one of us, including myself. Then, just for your information, company secretary is retained, as everyone of us know by now, I hope, okay, that company secretary, that as far as that position is concerned, it is retained. Then a company need not have a company secretary at the point of incorporation, but it doesn't stop one from appointing a company secretary at the point of incorporation strictly, in my view. Okay, but however, I was given to understand that SSN system has not uh, cater for that. So in other words, by right under the law, there's nothing stopping a company if they want to appoint a company secretary from day one. Okay, but because the super form doesn't have the provision for us to include the appointment of a secretary, should the promoters chooses to have one even from the very first moment it is incorporated. Okay, so in other words, the incorporation will have to take place post incorporation. Okay, for the time being, not too sure whether SSM is going to tweak it or not, the system, so that in the event that the promoters they have, because it's optional. Okay, so there should not be the computer system should not be stopping people from appointing a company secretary together with the incorporation. However, the system is not able to do that. So, appointment of company secretary can only take place post incorporation, meaning the incorporation must be completed first. You get your certificate of incorporation or now the notice of incorporation. Following that, then only we can appoint company secretary. Okay, and if one decide not to appoint at the same time or immediately after incorporation, we are given 30 days. I'm sure by now everybody know 30 days of incorporation to appoint a new company or to appoint company secretary. Okay, and company secretary's position must not be left vacant for more than 30 days at any point in time. So should one company secretary resigns from office, then the next one should step in or be appointed not more than 30 days from the vacation. Okay, let's move on. So basically this morning we'll be covering these few areas for company secretaries, meaning what are the qualifications, we'll be looking at what are the qualifications, registration process, practicing certificate, appointment and resignation, cessation and disqualification, duties and responsibilities, law and practice, fines and penalties. Okay, so this is the one on mandatory registration. The Company Act has actually provided or has provided Section 241 where it requires mandatory registration for company secretary. Section 241 until now has not been enforced yet. The date is to be advised subsequently. And what it entails is that all secretaries must register within 12 months from the effective date of the act. Actually, it's from the effective date the act, the particular section is enforceable or is enforced. Okay, so maybe we need to change this so that to make sure that it is clear here is from the 12 months from enforcement. Okay, great. Let's move on. Okay. Next is that the minister is empowered to regulate the issuance of practicing certificate via regulations. So we are to wait for SSM to come up with the regulations in terms of how they want to regulate practicing certificate holder. Okay, in terms of let me go through. Okay, so basically the regulations, we have a sneak preview into the regulations in a very draft form much earlier, but we are not too happy with it. There are quite a lot of amendments. So basically going forward, we are still waiting for SSM to issue the amended regulations, and let us have a consultation and look at what is provided in the regulations. Okay, so for the time being, nothing yet. Then again, this is a repeat to say that no secretary at the point of incorporation. It is optional. Then must appoint one within 30 days from date of incorporation. Then resignation is by notice to the board, subject to the constitution or terms of appointment. Okay, let me elaborate here. Our resignation, nobody can stop us from resigning as a company secretary. I need to stress this, that including the board of directors, everybody has got a right to resign as a company secretary or a member of the board. Okay, nobody can put a gun to your head and say that you cannot resign. All right, so if for any reason that circumstances doesn't warrant us to continue any further, it has got reason for us to resign. That means that if there are reasons for us to resign, where there are extenuating circumstances or any reasons whatsoever, okay, where our professionalism will come into question, our impartiality will come into question, our um, in terms of fairness, justice, equity is coming into question. Okay, so do not hesitate. Nobody can stop you from resigning as a company secretary. Okay, so of course there are considerations. I mean, when we are in practice, then we are going to lose a business. Okay, we may be answerable to our bosses, we are answerable to our seniors, we are answerable to maybe our shareholders even. Okay, shareholders of our company, if you are working in a big corporation, like a number of the service provider out there. Okay, but when the situation is such that warrants you to resign, please go ahead and resign. Nobody can stop you there. Okay, so bear this in mind. And what we need to do is just submit a notice to the board. And of course, this is subject to whatever terms and conditions that we have agreed upon with the company when we got ourselves appointed, or our own constitution. Okay, and what happened is that if you follow strictly what is provided, okay, then the cessation will take place 30 days from the date of the notice to the registrar. Okay, so that means from the time you submit your notice to the board, within 30 days thereafter, okay, the resignation will take place already. So that means there is this 30 days notice that you require to give, or rather there is this timeline of 30 days from the time you deposit the notice to the board. Okay, of course, we are not talking about, here got to change, notice to the because it's not notice to the registrar. I mean, it's notice to the board, and then we lodge to the registrar. Of course, there's lodgement to the registrar, but we are not talking about, because as far as the act is concerned, subject to the constitution and the terms, okay, as the resignation will take place 30 days from the time we deposit the notice to the board. Okay, so when we are giving the notice, we make sure that it reaches the board of directors. Okay, because most of the time our office will be used as the registered office. Most of the time, um, the um, the letters, notices, and so on will be given to the registered office. Okay, so are we saying that by giving a notice to the registered office, is that sufficient? Of course, no. Okay. So what happened is that, yes, based on formality, we will need to address the notice to the board at the registered office, but make sure that each and every one of the board of directors are also being sent a copy of the notice. Okay. And you will need to use your discretion as to how best you can reach each and every one of the directors. You can send it by email, you can send it by post, you can also give them a call. Okay. So I'm suggesting many ways that you need to bring to the attention of the board that you have tendered your resignation. Okay. Don't just follow what is stated in the law and say you need to give it to the board. So you just send it to the board and at the registered office and just wash your hands and thinking that that's done. Okay. It's not fair. All right. And may not stand up in terms of you if it's been challenged. Okay. So do what is necessary. You understand your board, you know who they are, and make sure that if you want to resign, you make sure that it's well communicated. Okay. And no such thing as backdating, no such thing as future dating or whatever. Okay. Because it is, the timeline should be 30 days when it is communicated to the board. Okay. In my view, because even though, you know, it says you may date it earlier, but the time should run from the time the notice is properly given to the board. Okay. So to add obligation, okay, here what happened is that uh, because in the Companies Act, it says the company is supposed to notify SSM of our resignation. But there is nothing mentioned about the obligation of the board. Of course, we are taking it synonymous that company and the board should be the same. Okay, that once the company is required to do something, meaning the board will be the agent to take that step. Okay, to notify SSM. However, to make things clearer, this is my suggestion that if we are amending the constitution, perhaps it is a good idea that we put in the constitution itself that the board, apart from the company, is required or is under an obligation to notify SSM of our resignation. So this is food for thought. If you feel that the act itself is sufficient, then let it be. Okay. But in order to, if you feel that you want to make it clearer so that you can pinpoint exactly to the board of directors that they also owe an obligation to notify SSM of our resignation, then perhaps you just want to make it clear. Okay. This is just a suggestion, not necessary you need to take it on, because as I mentioned again, the board is basically the board of directors. They are it is the agent, it is the humans side of a company. Okay, the people who can actually make things work, because as far as a company is concerned, it is an artificial person, it is not a real person. Okay. Then officer and signatory of company. So basically under the Companies Act, there are several specific provisions that is provided to tell us exactly that we company secretary is an officer of the company. So basically wherever the word officer appears in any part of the Companies Act, meaning company secretary is included. Okay, that means we are obligated to do that part of that provision. We are obligated as the directors to carry out that function. Okay. And also signatory of the company. That means there are certain provisions in the Companies Act which makes us signatory. That means we will have to sign off for and on behalf of the company. Okay. So let us go through what are they. Section 2 tells us very clearly that company secretary is an officer of the company. Okay. And then section 66 sub 5 says that authorized officer is equal to secretary. Okay. So these are the two sections. So whenever you are asked as to whether you are officer, then this is the section that you need to go. These are the sections. Okay. I mean officer, section 2, authorized officer, section 66 sub 5. Moving on. So what are we supposed to sign off in terms of uh, documents? Okay, in terms of documents under the Companies Act, what are they? One is the annual return and also the no change statement. This is provided under section 68. Two, certificate by secretary with an annual return where public company is concerned, having more than 500 members. So there is this certificate in the annual return where company having a public company having more than 500 members, we are to sign on that certificate. 3, statutory declaration with prospectus or SILOP. SILOP is statement in lieu of prospectus. Please take note, SILOP is statement in lieu of prospectus before commencement of business or borrowing for a public company. And this is found under section 1903. 4 is exempt private certificate. Okay, under section 260. We are also one of the signatory. 5 is forfeiture of shares, where we are required to sign the statutory declaration. It can be done by the director or secretary. And once that is signed, it is a conclusive evidence of shares duly forfeited. So very powerful. If we are to sign this statutory declaration, meaning that the shares are duly forfeited. And that is the conclusive evidence. Okay, so please take note. These are the 5 areas. There are some more areas which I'm going to bring to your attention. Yeah. Okay. So duties and responsibilities.